guitar, baby. Well, hello, welcome back to the channel. You know, a lot of people, a lot of guitar players, let's try this again. Hi, welcome back to the channel. You know, a lot of players will change their strings. They're not afraid to change the strings. They're not afraid to do a few other little things on the guitar. You know, maybe change the strings. But I'll tell you one thing that they are really afraid of is that dreaded truss rod adjustment. Let's say that the action just isn't right, or something's, you know, your strings are buzzing, or there's just something wrong there, and you can't figure out what it is, and you think you might have to move that stupid truss rod, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's nothing. We're going to take the fear out of truss rod adjustment. Okay, here we are over at the bench, and we're going to show you how easy it is to adjust this truss rod and get this fretboard just as nice and flat and get it with the perfect relief so that all the notes play right up and down the neck. You know, if the neck's not right, the guitar's just plain not going to play right. So first things we want to do, I'll show you how really easy it is first of all, we want to get something like this, just an old piece of foam that I got here, and we use that to prop up the neck a little bit so that it's just sitting up just a little bit. And then the next thing we're going to do is, well, we're going to go ahead, and these strings are kind of old and stuff, so we're going to go ahead and take those off. And we're just going to kind of move over here, and we just got a little tool that we do that with right here. It's a little crank right here. Now you can use just use your hands or use your fingers, but we're going to crank it, so we'll take these strings off right here, and we're going to just go ahead and get those right off of there. Now this is a guitar that we haven't even touched yet. This is the first time we're touching. We just got this one, and it looked like it had a lot of problems. It's got a lot of things, so we're going to use it for our instructional videos. So we show you all these things that we do to a guitar, like, you know, like adjusting the truss rod and crowning and leveling the frets and polishing the frets and stuff like that. We're going to show you all that kind of stuff. It's got a lot of scratches in the body and stuff. We're going to show you how to get the scratches out of the body. This one we're gonna be going through this one the whole thing. We're just going to go ahead and take these old strings off here. You know, you just go ahead and crank them off there. It's really not too tough to do. We'll slide down a little bit so we're more in the shot here. That's one thing I got to remember to do is keep things in the shot. I'm bad about that. I just keep on going. Not thinking about if you can see it or not. But, yeah, we get these old crusty strings off here. And, you know, you kind of see how people put strings on, you know. And one of the things that I'm seeing right here is that they didn't have very much wound up on the post. You got to have a little bit of strings on the post, or it's just you're never gonna stay in tune. And this string right here is wound on backwards. It's got a little bit of string on there, but it's wound on backwards. So we'll go ahead and take that one off. And the other one's the right way. But you know, some people, they leave a lot of string hanging out, you know, and all that will do will cut up the inside of your gig bag or cut up the inside of your case, you know, material. It'll pull that all up. Or some people just don't cut them off at all. They just kind of twist them off, or they leave them hanging there, and then got a bunch of eye pokers flopping around at you. You know, that's no good. You got to trim them suckers off right, and we're going to show you just how to do that in these videos. Today's video, we're going to take the mystery and the scariness. You know, I think of all the stuff I've heard people say, this is about the scariest thing that they have to do, is to get in here and adjust the truss rod. Man, people will do just about anything to a guitar except for adjust the truss rod. Now this string tree right here is in the way here. Let's just zoom in a little bit. There we go. This string tree right here is in the way a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and take that one out. And it was barely in there. Maybe we'll put a little bit longer screw. Yeah, see, the screw on that just barely fits through there, see? Let me get that up there where you can see it. See the... I wonder if you can see it. Let's see if we can see it. The screw just barely fits through there. not getting very much of a bite at all on that wood, so we're gonna remedy that. And see, when you take your guitar apart, you see things like that, you notice things like that. You know, it's not so bad. Okay, now that we got that taken care of, let's widen out a little bit, and we're gonna come back to our over here. Okay, now you've probably seen some people do this before, and I have a notched straight edge right here, you know, and I used to use that. In fact, I made this out of just a regular straight edge, and it is flat and true, but I made this. You know, a lot of the tools that I have, I've either made, or they're just common tools that you can buy, you know, sandpaper and screwdrivers and you know, and little tiny files and stuff like that, and feeler gauges, you know. Just you go to the Harbor Freight, or go to the parts store, and you get yourself a set of feeler gauges. These feeler gauges are just invaluable in guitar, in fixing up guitars. You need to be able to precisely measure things. You know, having a micrometer, you know, having one of these right here is really important, just for being able to measure things. But you know, those are all tools that you acquire as you learn how to do these jobs. Some people will set this end, the notched end, over the frets and stuff, and they'll go and they'll see how flat their fretboard is like that. I don't believe in that. I could care less if this wood is flat. The wood doesn't really matter. I want to know how flat these frets are. I want to know if there's a high fret, if there's low frets, what it's doing. So I use the flat edge here, okay? And all I do is I lay it right across the top here like this. But maybe we'll tighten it a little bit. I'll lay it right across the top of the neck like this. And with this little feeler gauge right here, see, this is a real thin one, man. It's like paper thin. You can't even see. If I turn it like that, you can't even see it. Oh, look, it disappeared. Oop, there it is. Oop, there it is. Okay, it's the thinnest feeler gauge that comes in the pack. And what I will do is I will take this feeler gauge, and I will, if I don't get my head in the thing, I will run it underneath here, and I want to see if there's a gap. First thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to put my straight edge down on there, and I'm going to kind of rock it back and forth, see if it's rocking. If it's rocking back and forth like a seesaw, then I know that the fretboard is high in the middle, and it's, you know, that it needs, you know, I need to loosen the truss rod, because the truss rod runs, there's a metal rod that runs underneath the fretboard here, and it runs the whole length down here. And if you imagine a bow and arrow, in a bow, like from a bow and arrow, you know, if you tighten the string on the wooden bow part gets more round, you know what I mean? It gets rounder as you tighten the string. And if you loosen the string, then the bow gets flatter. Well, that's kind of how it works with this. You know, the tighter this rod is down here, the tighter this truss rod is right here, the tighter you tighten that down, the more bow you're going to get, you know, more it's going to bow out your neck, okay? And if you loosen it, then it's going to cup out your neck. It's going to, you know, make a little valley in your neck. And we want a little tiny bit of a valley in this neck when we get the strings on it. So what we usually do is we get this neck nice and perfectly flat with the truss rod, okay? Then, after we put the strings on it and everything like that, we check the relief, which is how much the strings have taken the neck away from being flat. See, when you tighten up the strings, it's going to make it bow. It's going to make it a little bow like this, you know, whoop. And that's what we want. We want about 0.008 of an inch, which is really about the thickness of a couple of pieces of paper, maybe. Right here in the middle, right in the middle of the fretboard, we want about that much right there. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to stick this straight edge on here. And we're going to go up and down this neck here. See, now on the very end here, we got a little bit, it's not going through, but it's going through a little bit on the ends. And the doggies are barking. See, it's sliding right underneath the middle right there, all the way across. So that means that there's a little bit of a valley. So what we got to do is we got to tighten up this truss rod just a little bit. We got to tighten it just a little bit so that it will take this out of the middle here, okay? So let's do that. Let's widen out a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to come back down here to our, and we'll tighten back in. Okay, now the adjustment for the truss rod is down in here, and it's got a little Allen head screw, or Allen head nut in there, bolt, okay? You got to find the appropriate Allen head for your thing. Now you might have it, if you got like a Gibson or something like that, you might have a nut in there, so you might have to use like a socket or something. But usually it takes an Allen wrench, and you stick the Allen wrench in there, okay? You make sure that it's all the way in there and stuff, and it's good, okay? Now we want to take a little bit of this bow out. We want to take a little bit of the bow out of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten it. So righty-tighty, we're going to tighten it up a little bit. And you know, it didn't seem like it had much at all. So we're gonna tighten that up, okay? And we tighten it up about a quarter of a turn, because on this I could feel that it was just starting to get, it was loose. So I'm getting it to where it's just starting to tighten up. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna widen out again, and we're gonna take our straight edge and we're gonna stick it back on here. Now, when you stick your straight edge back on there, you want to make sure that you're not putting it on the nut, because if you put it on the nut, then it's going to throw everything off. So we'll put it like this, and then we'll come back here, and we will see how it looks in the middle. And we are still loose in the middle and tight on the end, so we still got to tighten it up a little bit. So we will put our wrench back in there, okay? Make sure it's seated in there, and we'll tighten it up a little bit more. And I can feel it getting tight. Okay? Now, we'll stick this back on there. Sometimes you might want to wait a minute, half a minute. And sometimes what I will do, so I'll take that out. Sometimes what I'll do is I will, let's say that I need it to flatten out a little bit. It's too much of a bow in it. It's cupped. Okay? So I'll stick this in the middle. I'll just kind of go like this with the neck. Just kind of make it go the way I want it to go. Kind of bend it in a little bit, trying to bend it a little bit into the direction that I need it. Okay? We'll set that back down, and we'll put our straight edge back on there, and we're still going underneath there a little bit. And what I'm doing too here is I'm kind of feeling, seems like the frets are all pretty level, except for they get right down to the bottom right there, so I'm not like, it's loose, 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 and then it hits, and then it's tight, and then it's loose, 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 and it's tight. If it's like that, then that tells me that these frets right here are a little bit high. So, but I haven't run into that any. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the truss rod, stick the Allen wrench back in there again. Okay. Make sure we get a good bite. And I'm going to put it back in the other way. So now I'm going to keep tightening it some more. And I think now I'm getting closer. So I'm just using little increments of tightening it. You can give it a little help like that. Okay. And we'll give it another shot. See how it's doing. It seems like it's starting to get a little bit tighter. It's still a little bit loose in the middle though, right there. So we're going to keep going. We're going to give it just a little bit more. Something like that. If you want to give it a half a minute in between adjustments, there's no problem. It lets the wood kind of get settled, you know. And what I'll do is I'll get it where I think it's right. I'll let it set for a minute, and then I'll come back and check it again to see if it's moved or done anything funky. Oop, so we're hitting there. We're still kind of low in the middle. Now sometimes I'll move it over to the edge a little bit more. So we'll tighten in a little bit. Sometimes I'll move it to the edge over here, you know. I'll try it over here, see how that's doing. Because, you know, it could be worn out a little bit more down the middle than it is anyplace else. Okay? And then I'll come over here and try it on this side. And see, the edges seem to be a little bit, well, they're a little bit loose too. So we're going to just give it another tightening. Here we go right there. I can feel that it's getting kind of tight when I'm turning it, you know. No, widen out a little bit. Yeah, I can feel that it's starting to get tight when I'm turning it. So Stick this back on here. And we are starting to get tight. See, it's starting to hit farther up. See, before just the first frets were hitting at the end of the straight edge. Now they're hitting right in here and here on both ends. That means, that tells me that the middle is coming up a little bit. Yeah, see, it's still loose in the middle. It's starting to touch up here now instead of just down here. Well, I mean, it's starting to touch like up here, you know, instead of just down there. Okay, so we got to go a little bit more. So we will pull our wrench out, and we will get in there one more time, and we'll give it just another little tightening. There we go. Now, feels like it's getting pretty tight. So let's see what we're doing here. They're still just a little bit loose in the middle. So what we are going to do, we're going to do this again. See if we can't get it to go. It doesn't have to go very far. So we're going to kind of just give it a little bit of help. And you know, my hands on the neck are kind of warming it up a little bit. I can feel that there's a little bit, my hands are putting a little bit of heat in the neck, which is helping to relax it a little bit, you know. Okay, now that we've done that, let's see if that made any difference. I think it did, and we are getting pretty close. I think that just needs a smidge more tightness. Let's see if that'll come out. There we go. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta, you know. All right. I think that we got it right there where we need it. So, I'm gonna set this back on there. See, now that one is hitting right there. If you can see that. That one's hitting. That one's hitting. That one's kind of hitting. That one's kind of hitting. See, some of them are hitting, and some of them it's just barely sliding under. So what that's telling me is that this, like, let's say this fret, it doesn't go under there, but then this one it does. That means that tells me that this fret is a little bit more wore down. So if I'm getting it where every other one is hitting, that means that, well, you know, this fret might be a little higher. We're getting in the I'm happy with that, because what we're going to do, what we would normally do, is we would go ahead and level this out, because there's a few frets that are just a little bit high. But what we can do, if we want to get it even closer, is that we can kind of assess right now how we got it, and if any more adjustment is going to make any difference. And I think we got it about as flat as we're going to get it. There's a couple of frets where it goes underneath there, but with this feeler gauge that we're using, it's really thin. So if it's sliding under one and it's not sliding underneath the other, that means that there's, I mean, this thing is like 0.003 of an inch. No, it is 0.0025, 0.064 millimeters. I mean, it's thinner than a piece of paper. It really honestly is. I mean, look at that. It just, you turn it sideways, it just disappears. I mean, it's thin, like a hair. So if you're sticking that underneath one and it's sticking on, you pretty much got it level. I would be happy with that. Now you could go ahead and restring this if you want. You know, my suggestion would be to go ahead and, you know, clean it before you go. You know, if your frets look nice and it looks level across there, man, you're in good shape. Okay, go ahead, put some new strings on there. Get it all tuned up. Make sure you stretch those strings. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to show you how to do the how to change the strings here on the next video. I think is what we're going to do. Change the strings. It's real easy to do. You go ahead and change the strings, and then what you want to do. Okay, after you get the strings on, you get it all tight and tuned up to where you want it. Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your straight edge one more time. You're going to lay it right across in between the strings. Okay, lay it in between the strings, and you're gonna find your, now let's say that you went out and you bought yourself some feeler gauges, okay? You're gonna take your 10 thousandths feeler gauge, and you're gonna see if you can slip it underneath the straight edge. You should be able to. You should be about 8 to 10 thousandths of an inch is where your relief should be. So, if you can get your little 10 thousandths, 8 thousandths feeler gauge underneath there, you are good to go. If not, if you can't get it, then you need to loosen up your truss rod just a little bit. Stick your wrench in there, turn it to the loosen it, lefty-loosey. Turn it to the left a little bit until you get that and let it set. And then the strings will usually pull it right down. But then that'll get that 10 thousandth of an inch relief that you need in there, and it should be playing just beautiful. If you got all the other stuff that it takes to get it just right. But that is taking the mystery out of the truss rod adjustment. Man, it is just so easy. There's not hardly nothing to it. And it just takes a little simple tool, something with a very, very straight edge. You know, that's all it needs. You know, that's about, that's 16 inches long. That's how long this one is, 16 inches long. You know, and just, go over to Harbor Freight, get a pack of feeler gauges. You know, it's real easy to do. Get yourself a few, tools, a little pair of snippers so you can, this little pair of snippers that I got, oh, it's just perfect for taking off the strings. You take everything off. It's great for pulling the little buttons out for the strings when you're changing on acoustic stuff like that. It's really easy. Go to the pawn shop. Get one of them guitars that's been hanging up in there for years and nobody's showing it any love or anything like that, and bring it home and watch my videos and turn that guitar, rescue that guitar, turn that guitar into something that you can play and something that's going to give you some love and enjoyment. And you guys can, it's a beautiful thing. That guitar doesn't deserve to be hanging up in that pawn shop like that. It didn't do nothing wrong. It deserves to be played and enjoyed by somebody. That's what guitars are put on this earth for. They're to be played and enjoyed and give people joy and to make beautiful music with. And what we do is we show you how to get that guitar so that it is making beautiful music, and so that you're able to make beautiful music with it just that much easier. So you're not fighting the guitar. So it's not making noises that you don't want it to make. You know what I mean? So that it sounds harmonious and it sounds beautiful and it inspires you. And it plays like a guitar is supposed to play. We take any old guitar you got, pretty much, if it's in halfway decent structural, it's not falling apart. So it's not a pile of toothpicks. We can turn any old guitar into something that plays beautifully, that does what a guitar is supposed to do. Play perfectly up and down the neck, play in tune, be comfortable to play, and be inspiring, and sound beautiful, and sound harmonious, and sound full. Have a nice, full, beautiful sound, satisfying sound. Something where you go, oh wow, that is really nice. This guitar has something special. That's what we do. We put the mojo in them and we make them sound special. We make any old guitar. I mean, this is the PV. Nothing special. We picked this up for, I think, $50. We rescued it. And it's going to be, look at it, it's already on a video, but people are going to be watching it. It's already gaining some notoriety. It's already getting a little bit famous. Hey, this guitar is going to be YouTube famous. It's like maybe me one day, right? Hopefully. So, that should take the mystery out of the truss rod adjustments. Keep watching. Watch the next video. We're going to show you how to change these strings. We're going to show you how to do everything there is to do on head to toe on these things. Everything that the Mojo Man knows how to do, I'm going to teach you guys. So, we are going to say, here comes my face. Ah, no. Adios for now. Adios for now. Jesus, get it right, man. For Mojo Shop Guitar, baby.